Well, if it isn't my lovely, wonderful, beautiful FreeMelon initiates, welcome back to the FreeMelon Society. I'm Eli Martyr. I'm glad that you guys are here with me today because we're going to talk about an issue that has circulated around the vegan community and the debate between meat eating and vegetarianism or veganism, and it's this biblical perspective, okay? And we're going to talk about it today because I see so many people allowing this to confuse them. And it's troublesome and it's worrisome because this shouldn't be confusing, but we're going to go through it today and hopefully straighten out your thinking so that you are not confused anymore and you know exactly what to think. Do I eat meat or do I not eat meat when we're using the Bible as our frame of reference? Okay, let's get into this. All right, so this one's going to be for all my Christian friends out there. All right, God bless you guys. Now, the reason that this subject has caused a lot of consternation, a lot of confusion, is because the Bible, if we're using the Bible as our frame of reference to inform our decision as to whether or not to eat meat, the problem is the Bible gives, or seems to give, contradictory injunctions to the reader as to whether or not to eat meat. For example, if we go back to the beginning, in Genesis 1:29-30, we read, "And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb-bearing seed which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed, to you it shall be for meat, and to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat, and it was so." So that seems to indicate that there is no prescription for eating meat whatsoever. There's no indication there that suggests that we should eat meat. We are to be eating only the herbs and whatever grows organically from Mother Earth. Okay, but then there's a problem. Later on, after the flood, all of a sudden everything changes, as if there was some massive calamity that befell the earth that caused a slight difference in the approach to eating than you would have had before the flood. Kind of reasonable, if you ask me. Imagine if there was a napalm strike in your city. Would you imagine that life would be the exact same after the napalm strike as before? Might be some differences. So after the flood now, all of a sudden, the tone is different. And we read the following: "Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you, even as the green herb have I given you all things." Okay, so now we're saying bloody everything is food. Doesn't matter, like everything that moves, that breathes, that swims, whatever. It's just, it's all food for you. Okay, well, that's a bit confusing. And this isn't the only two. There are other contradictory passages. If we read from Leviticus 11, we're going to read a whole list of enumerated restrictions, and allowances for what is clean, kosher, and unclean food to eat. This animal chews the cud, but it doesn't have a cloven hoof, so it's unclean. You can't eat the lizards and the rabbits and anything with paws. These are the unclean animals. So it's this whole list of rules and guidelines as to whether or not to eat a certain animal based on its cleanliness or uncleanliness. So that seems to suggest that we can eat meats now, but there are limits and there are guidelines. You can't eat indiscriminately, but only selectively. And then we get to the New Testament, and Jesus does away with all of this and allows us to eat anything and everything. In Mark chapter 7, verse 18 and 19, it reads, "And he saith unto them, Are ye so without understanding also? Do ye not perceive that whatsoever thing from without entereth into the man, it cannot defile him? Because it entereth not into his heart, but into the belly, and goeth out into the draught, purging all meats." So basically, if you eliminate it from your body, well, you eliminate it. And so it can't be unclean because you've eliminated all that which was unclean from what you ate, right? So eat anything. Okay, so what do we make of all this? All right, now, the first thing to say is that it's important to understand, I might get ahead of myself here, I have to ignore a whole bunch of considerations when I'm making this video, all right? Understand that I'm, for the sake of simplicity and just to be direct, I'm ignoring a whole bunch of other context regarding what the Bible is, how it's supposed to be interpreted, that there is, in fact, an understanding, a codex, a symbolic legend almost that you would want to be aware of before reading the Bible so that it makes sense. You could talk about the Bible as a sacred scripture being sealed with 7 seals of understanding, 7 layers of understanding that apply to different scales of reality, all encoded in the Bible, wrapped under different allegory and symbol. Okay, so understand, for the sake of this discussion, I'm ignoring any and all of these considerations, okay? Let's just assume that the Bible is written to be interpreted as is, literally, okay? And it was written 2,000 and change years ago, and now we're reading it in modern, present, contemporary times, and we're seeing if we can get dietary injunctions from this text, okay? So that's our perspective, that's our frame. We are instructed as Christians to model our thinking, our living, our feeling, our behaving after the glory of God, after the example of the highest, and love and morality and that which is right and virtuous, that is to be our guiding light. We're also instructed that we must use our mind. We must think like God. We must use His laws of thought and logic to inform our actions and inform our thinking. These are foundational. These are primary. And if you surrender your ability to think and reason in accordance with the laws of thought, with the laws of God, with the laws of reality, then you're going to be misled by those who promulgate the vain philosophies of men, the vain superstitious nonsense that characterizes the rest of the world. Christ teaches us, do not be a man of the world. Do not think in line in terms of the worldly philosophies, because the world will be misled. You have to be modeled after God, the highest. Now, you knowing what you do now, if you were to read that last passage that I just read about Jesus prescribing everything, Mark chapter 7, 18, 19, if you eat it, well, you poop it out, so it's fine, it's clean, all right? Now, do you honestly believe that? Because it's written in the Bible, do you so abandon your ability to think and rationalize and come to the conclusion, well, if I eat it, then I'm clean because I cast it out into the toilet? Do you actually believe that? How many evidences do you have in your reality, in your experience, and from the experiences of others that teach you absolutely 100% that if you garbage in, garbage out, program a computer to compute nonsense and it will produce nonsense. If you eat nonsense, nonsense is what your body will express. If you eat that which is polluted and unclean, dirty and disgusting and rotting and putrid and filthy, well, that's what's going to characterize your flesh. That which is putrid and filthy and rotting and corrupt and depraved and awful. So I ask you, do you really believe that? Are those words to live by? If you eat it, don't worry because you just clean yourself. Now, in a manner of speaking, yes, there is a sense in which that is true if that passage is meant to suggest the programming of the body, that the body is a self-cleaning vehicle. Nature is trying to clean at all times. Then that might be a correct thing. But you have to apply the context. If you don't think clearly, then you're just going to believe the passage and then go on eating with no responsibility, no discrimination. And that's not correct. All right? Now, if we're being literal with the Bible, we have this prescription for eating only the plants and only the herbs of the trees. And then everything changes after this world calamity, this global calamity. It's always important to remember, guys, that the good teacher, okay, the hierophant of the mysteries, the educator, the didact, the noble authority, you always have to take into consideration the level of, the mind of, the ability and the capacity of those who you are instructing. If you don't consider the capacity of the demographic of the people that you are teaching, and you don't consider what level they're at, then you will be a bad teacher. This is something that I know that you're already aware of because of your experiences here on Earth. We all, at some level, understand this. Let's just say I am a calculus and algebra master, and I want to instill into a young child a love for, an understanding of calculus and algebra. Do you think that it would be a good idea, as an educator of algebra and calculus, to take that, let's call him a 6-year-old, take that 6-year-old into a classroom and come with the fiery hammer of calculus God and boom, and just splay on all the most complex, rigorous, meticulous laws of algebra, all the complexities, all the fine details that you must know if you're going to be an algebra and calculus master? Do you think it's a good idea to just lay it on thick to that 6-year-old? Or do you think it would be the mark of a much better and more intelligent and wise educator to tailor the information that you give this young child into a form that is much more palatable, easy to understand, easy to follow, based on the general limitations of being a 6-year-old? It would be much, much wiser for that educator who knows it all not to expect that the child has the capacity to retain everything that they should understand if you're going to be a calculus and algebra master. So you have to tailor the nature of the information you give them to suit that person in hopes that they will at some point grow into an appreciation of higher and other considerations of algebra and calculus, right? So in the biblical story, you have this calamitous world catastrophe that has just freshly destroyed everything. Maybe the options that were there are no longer there in the way they were before. Okay, fine. All right. Okay. We just went through the flood, guys. All right. I get it. The garden's destroyed. Everything is all in chaos. We've got all these animals now at our disposal. Okay. All right. Let's make some rules. If you're going to eat meat, okay, at least eat some of the cleaner ones. Now we're allowing some unideal practices because the conditions are changed. If you found an ancient map to a certain landmark, you're in a dense populated city, and you read from this map, proceed 500 paces of the goat's stride, past the mark where the oaks stop whispering in thine ear. Along the bank of the river, past the 3 mounts of glory, turn ye to the right of the hand, past the dilapidated den of the wailing harlot.
Come on, man.
All right, that's enough. Okay, you get it. Let's just say you read that in an ancient map. Okay, well, now you come to the modern context and you're in a dense city, twisting and winding grid-like roads everywhere. You need a street plan. Are those ancient prescriptions for where to go and what to follow? Is that going to be useful for you now in the modern context where the layout of the city is completely different? No, it's not going to be helpful. Now, the last thing I'll say is thinking along those lines. Your own body. Your own body gives you all of the current considerations that you need to solve this riddle. Nature and God have indelibly written onto your body everything that you need to know about your dietary prescriptions and limitations, such that whatever you read in antiquity, my question for you, Christians, is, does it matter? Considering that you already have intact, inborn, woven into the fabric of your being, a perfect guide to what you're supposed to be eating. Like God took care of you already. He didn't require you to necessarily look to any other authority besides his own laws that enshrine themselves in your body. Do you eat meat or not? Well, Christ. No canines, no powerful jaws, no claws, hands, dexterity to pick foods. If a cow waltzed right in front of me right now, I can't even open my mouth wide enough to fit around its neck, guys. Let's say I did. Let's just say I grabbed my mouth and I went, and I broke my jaw open so that my jaw could actually fit over this cow's neck. I could barely break the skin with a bite. You can't do it. You don't have the jaw structure. You don't have it. You're the great omnivore, right? Go chase down a rabbit with your human speed. See how far that gets you. You ever tried it? Bloody impossible, okay? Try chasing down a bird. You're not doing... Okay, again, I could drown another hour talking about all the ways that nature makes it evident that you're not a meat eater. This is what is confusing, because you've already been given the answers. The scripture is your own body. You can find other passages in the Bible that do lead you to the right consideration. If you read Proverbs 12:10, you read, "A righteous man regardeth the life of his beast, but the tender mercies of the wicked are cruel." You're supposed to love and care for your beasts. We have been given dominion over the rest of nature because of the gift of our mind, which makes us a lot closer to the highest, to the creator, than the rest of the animal kingdom. And thus, with that responsibility, you have dominion over them, because you can completely dominate and master them with your ability to conceptualize and integrate observational data in a way that the animals cannot. They are our children, and having dominion over them doesn't mean you murder them. Dominion means you rule them like a king, right? You rule them in a holistic way that ensures the harmonious survival and optimal functioning of the kingdom, like a big body. Just like your body is all on the same page, every cell working towards one goal: maintain the health, harmony, and beauty and grace and loveliness of the body. Well, a kingdom is supposed to do the same. And you have to have a godly ruler, marshaled by the morality and the love of God and the wisdom of the highest, using those principles to govern the kingdom, right? That's what it's supposed to be. So if you allow this question to add confusion, then what I would suggest is you are surrendering your ability to think like the highest, to think like God, and allowing for a literal examination of scripture to confuse you. And guys, you don't need to be confused. You can honor yourselves and honor God by paying respect, deep respect, to the body temple that has been given you. Observe its laws and prescriptions, and you will be following the injuncts of the highest with no worries in sight. Okay, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for listening here on the FreeMelon Society today. Don't miss important lectures and talks like these, all right? I like to try and instill a bit of helpful philosophy into these lessons, along with other helpful dietary tips and tricks. And if you like this kind of stuff, then of course, yeah, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss my lessons. And that's about it. Okay, guys, I love you very much, and we'll see you on the next one. All right, ciao.